Welcome back this afternoon. I hope that you had a wonderful lunch. I want to thank well, is Tina still in here? Our staff and everyone who pulled that together. But I enjoyed the lunch, and just so that I didn't have a carb attack, I also had some coffee so we all stay awake. So I'll try to keep this interesting so that we stay awake this afternoon. There are, some of the facilities folks have gone ahead and gone to work at facilities. The Career Center folks have gone back to the Career Center. So there are a few folks who have been excused to go ahead and get into their areas, as this does not necessarily relate directly to their areas. If we're missing anybody else, you might start texting your friends and saying, hey, we've started already. But we've talked about high impact practices for our students. So there are two important things we want to focus on this afternoon. Processes for our shared governance, so that everyone understands how to participate, how to get your impact and your input to impact the institution. So that we're going to talk about that, real world way to do it, website, resources, and Jasmine's going to show you that. Also, if you look back to our recommendations, your recommendations actually from the task force and survey input, there was a request for decision-making flow charts and processes. So how do we come to this decision? How do we impact our own policies, etc.? And so you'll see that as well in the shared governance session. We were going to do two separate sessions. We could flip-flop, but we're just going to do this here together, go through one, go through the other, and then get on to getting ready for the semester. One thing that we found from our CFO and our Dean of Admissions Financial Aid and the input from folks this summer, from the drop and the late add to the contact hours that Sherry shared, the best way to impact, plan your master schedule, plan for your classes, and retain your students, high impact practice number one is how you do advising. You've heard me say this before. If you haven't, please just bear with me and listen to this. Our industry, if you read the Chronicle of Higher Ed, if you read Community College Week, if you honestly read the Democrat Gazette, you don't even have to stay within our industry to know this. Higher Ed is going through, if you will, a baptism by fire. We are the auto industry. This is Detroit, okay, in the early 2000s, if that tells you anything. And that left factories empty. The industry changed. Higher ed, not our school alone. Higher ed as an industry is going through a significant change. Significant. Schools are being absorbed. 2-year, 4-year public funding has switched to vouchers in some states. Just the industry, and I love the field of higher ed, so you want to come and have coffee with me and let's talk about it? I would love to share and get your thoughts on the transformation of our industry. The schools that will survive will be agile, and they will respond to external pressures and do the best for their students. High-performing schools have some things in common. High-performing institutions, 3 things are managed predominantly by the faculty. 3 things. Aside from, obviously, instruction. Obviously. It's what you're hired, your brain to instruct and help our students move forward. But to be agile, 3 things are managed by faculty. Accreditation, assessment, advising. For my English folks, do you like that I did agility is advising, assessment, accreditation? You caught that? I hope that you see last academic year we moved assessment out of an administrative position into a faculty-led position. And thank you, Sherry, for doing that. Sherry is leading it as a resource, not doing it. That means if you need your assessments done, Sherry doesn't do them. She comes over to you, you have a collective community of your expert faculty members, and you come together and we work on this together. But it is in the hands of the curriculum experts, faculty. Advising of our current students does not need to be handled in an advising center. An advising center is for onboarding brand new folks. Students who are here are your students. They're in your programs. If they're undeclared, they're slap dab in the middle of gen ed. The contact hours that Sherry talked about, who are students connected to? Me? Sadly, no. You. They're connected to the faculty members. And the advocacy that you can do for students is so much more than they can do for themselves. For example, I have an advisee walks into my office as a faculty member and says, I don't understand, I can't figure out this financial aid stuff, I have to go in different lines, I don't know what to do. I pick up the phone as the faculty advisor of my student. I call my financial aid person. At SAU it was Bronwyn. Bronwyn, I have a student, she's in Dev Ed, it's her third semester here. What's going on? She says financial aid says she can't register. She just didn't click this, can you click it for her, da-da-da. Well, hired people to hired people, saying FAFSA to a first-generation student, saying all these different hoops in that jargon, we understand it, right? I can call you up, we can do 5 clicks in Jenzabar, we'll figure it out, and the student's done. That student's there with me, I'm the student's advocate, and we took care of something in 5 minutes that would have been 20 phone calls and a student running all over campus and possibly driving between campuses. What is the best for the student? You are. So we have moved the other two things, and we are going to be an agile, thriving institution in the middle of what's happening to our industry. And I know that you can do this, and the reason is your students came here to work with you. Your students who are interested in your field came here to work with you. We're going to work on the numbers, see what is reasonable. I don't want to alarm you. I've had, as a faculty member, anywhere between 25 to 80 advisees. I had 80 because I ran 3 graduate programs, so hopefully you're not running 3 separate programs right now. Could be, but I'll do my best to help you with that. But the other thing, the problem we're facing today, the challenge, if you will, is our returning students are showing up in late registration to register. That's for new students. So how do I know now? How can I plan the best educational experience as an administrator for our students if I have 80 students who are about to show up and need a Comp 1 because they failed and they're returning, or a Comp 2, or a math class or a science class? Well, if they had faculty advocates and we had a structure to support those faculty advocates, your 20 advisees, I can call you up and go, hey, 17 are registered, where are the other 3? You can say, one got married, one had a baby, the other one found a great job. Well, I know where those 3 students are. What we know in our challenges numerically, if you look at where our challenges as an institution lie, it is in the fact that we are losing students faster than we can recruit students. And I mean by industry standard, our retention rate has improved, but our students were exiting. Progression is the metric in the funding formula I've talked about the most to those who have wanted to visit about the funding formula. And that is the one area where we were not up. If we'd been up in that metric, we could have received new money statistically this last round, because we were only down 1.8, 1.3. I mean, we barely missed the new money. And the progression metric, which is the returning of your student to completion, is where we were down. Well, then I want to do a high impact practice and empower the people who have the most contact with students to ensure our students are retained and complete. Complete the credential, complete the course, complete whatever the student's goal was to arrive here. So we're moving into a model of case management advising. We held an advising retreat in the summer with all of our advising staff, and key individuals who already advised as faculty members and chairs and leaders on campus were invited to that as well. We rolled this out, said, okay, what will our faculty members need to support them in this transition? And so we have, I know Jonathan's advising right now, but you have a lead faculty member who is going to help and mentor you, Jonathan Perkis. Also, you have an advising handbook, and we're rolling out an advising shell in Blackboard, so there'll be continuing messaging. So there's lots of things that will be there to support you. Also, some of you have already come in and shadowed advisors, but really we're going to be able to not show up next fall and go, where are the 6,000 students we had before? Because we're going to know in pre-registration for our current students how many of them are not registered. so we can plan, not be reactive, but plan ahead and know where we're going to be in our numbers. That's what our competitors, colleagues, competitors around the state do. And so we will also have this high impact practice. So just don't, as we move through this, don't be alarmed. I know it can sound like, oh my goodness. And some of you are going, what's she talking about? I run a program and I advise all my students anyway. Well, not all of us were in that model. So we did have some inconsistencies in the way that we handle our student experience here. So we're going to have more consistency in that student experience. We have some exemplars here. We have some programs that are knocking it out of the park, from allied health to culinary, in the way that they handle the student experience. Renee will call me up and go, okay, this many students are paid. What happened to this student? This student was dropped. And we have fixed things in Zanzibar. Flags we didn't know were turned off because of the way culinary has advised students, and they find someone's dropped before I knew the student. I was like, what? We ran that flag this morning? And so there's so much that we can improve upon together when we are advocates for our students in a really thought out model. So there are a lot of new things we're doing this year, but one of the highest impact things we can do is put the fate of our students in your hands on their ability to return, their ability to pre-register, and then not be reactive right now as we're in the middle of registration, because they would have already been, our current students would already be registered, or we would know why they're not. So we're going to build in some support services, but assessment, accreditation, and advising are the things that, when they're controlled, run, and supported by instruction, they work. And so that's the why of all the multiple things that we're doing. But also, I wanted to make sure that you know that you'll be supported in this. It's not helpful to students for us to go, surprise, do that by yourself. That's not what we're doing. And I'm happy to come over to your office and help, though I'm sure Jonathan would be more helpful with Zanzibar than I would be, but I'm happy to come and sit beside you. We're going to have to work out the kinks. So I know this isn't going to be perfect, and I love folks who see the holes in things because you help me fix them. So don't consider yourself a naysayer. I consider you a problem solver. So as we roll this out, please keep the dialogue going of how we can best support our students.
So I'm going to make this very quick because Dr. Strecker essentially covered everything I was going to cover. Probably did a much better job. So again, the why. Do you guys remember 225 to 1? What does that ratio mean? What's the 225? Contact hours a student has with a faculty member. What's the 1 hour? Advisor or an administrator. So the students are accustomed to already dealing with us on a daily basis. And so just keep that statistic in mind and remember that that's why we're doing this. And actually, a lot of this stemmed from just kind of a chance conversation that I had with Mary Kate Snow and Desiree because of some questions that I had about TRIO, and then they gave me this information right here. And it really made us start thinking and really just hit the ground running to implement this. Look at these statistics. So remember when we were talking about HLC earlier, we have retention, persistence, and completion. Those are those key metrics that we're really going to be looking for when we are going through these data sets to write our assurance arguments. And one of the things that's been constantly focused on in our comprehensive reviews that we've received in the past from HLC, and if you remember earlier, we talked about improvement of student outcomes. These are those student outcomes. So if you look at this TRIO information, TRIO has an 87% persistence rate because those students, when they have a problem, they know who they can go to. Desiree is there. Mary Kate is there. Linda is also there for Veterans Upward Bound. And 87% is a whole lot better than 56%. Think about what that would mean in the numbers if we just got those students to persist semester to semester. So, and then look at the graduation and transfer rates or completion rates. So with graduation, 55% TRIO, 14% UAPTC in general. And in 2016, it was 12%. So we have come up 2%, from the past comprehensive review, but we're still only at 14% of the students that we start with graduate. Whereas with TRIO, they're 55%. And Mary Kate, if I'm remembering this incorrectly, let me know. But you said that these are 2 years, this data is 2 years old, right? And so that last year you're still working on, but it's actually improved.
Yeah, we always stay a year behind, so we'll have our current numbers in
Yes.
spring. But yes, we're actually higher than this at this point.
Yeah. So this is proof that this works. I mean, there's been lots of studies and publications about this, but just keep that in mind. The transfer rate also, I mean, there's a significant difference. You're looking at 38% versus 13%. And so, and all of these metrics are what helps us with the funding formula. So just please keep that in mind when, it is going to be a big change. I remember the first time that I went from one school to another, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, here, first day on the job, here's your HR paperwork. Day number 2 was, here, this is how you do advising, and here are your 40 advisees. And I'd never done that before. So it is intimidating, but it's actually a really cool process because you get to know your students. You really get to connect with them. And so, it is going to be a change, but we just have to, and if you remember the book, Who Moved My Cheese, we have to be that little mouse that is not scared to take chances and go find new cheese. So, anyway, so other reasons as to why we're doing this: consistency for the student experience. That students know they're going to come and see the same person every semester. That is a big deal. If a student has an issue, they go to the same person. Also, think about it. If a student goes to general advising and they want to be a social worker or an anthropologist, it is the best thing to do is to send them to somebody who knows about that. Or if a student thinks they want to be a social worker, but they're saying they want to be a psychology major, then they don't know what they don't know. I know we hear that a lot, but the students don't know what to ask. You guys have been there and done that. So hey, do you really want to be, this actually happened with Debbie DeJardin. Yes, I knew I was going to mispronounce that. Debbie and I last night had this exact situation in advising. A student said she wanted to be a psychology major, and then she started talking about what she wanted to do as a psychology major. No offense, psychology people. I know, Loya. She really wanted to be a social work major. And so it's a matter of just talking them through that process because they don't know. And so we ended up printing out both of the 2+2 agreements and showing her exactly what the course lists look like, what the professional path would look like for those 2 degrees. And now we've got her on the right path. And if she's in general, like cattle call advising, she's never going to make it to that point. And she'll end up somewhere as a senior or right after graduation with a psychology degree and realize that she can't be a social worker. So what is intuitive to us is not necessarily intuitive to the student. And that's what we need your expertise for. Progress toward completion, improves retention and completion rates. Students have contacts with instructors earlier in their field of study. So if they do want to be an anthropologist or a psychologist or a teacher, they know who to go to and get good advice from the very beginning. So anyway, I'm going to turn this over to Erin because Erin Dale has tons of really good information about how we can actually do this.
I hope. Let's see. So since advising could not be here because they're overseeing all of our students, they asked if I would assist them in their information. So they just have some general information about what this will look like. And again, those of you who are already doing case management and doing it well, we're not going to step on your toes, take your students, move them around. We want you to continue with the model that works. But the Advising Center will still be responsible for all of the onboarding. So all of our new students who come through, if there are specific areas like culinary, education, those areas that want to see their students early on when they're brand new, they will still get filtered that way. But the Advising Center can continue to see those new students and onboarding them. They will beef up their Career Center. Currently, if you didn't know, they use the Goodwill services. And so they want to start doing more career exploration, testing, job placement, resume building, all of that stuff that our students need when they leave us, and to make sure they're on the right path. And then they will also see those special populations of students that just have different needs, like our international students, our high school students, making sure that they stay within, you know, what word do I want to use? The parameters that those students have to be within. Workforce, TAA recipients, and then our affiliate partners. So for case management, am I going the wrong way? Thank you. Okay. So in the Advising Center, they want to continue on the path of changing majors. It is kind of a cumbersome process as it is in Gensbar, because you have to change the major and then assign it to specific advisors. So that will continue to happen in their office. Those conversations can happen with you when you say you don't want to be a psychology major, you want to be social work. So you can tell the student, hey, you need to go change your major, but that will still happen in their office. And then prior learning assessment. We're still working on what that will look like. Currently, Terry Hunkapiller and Cassandra do that in partnership, and so we're working on a better process for portfolios and making sure that students who have work experience can get those credits. Early alert. Did you guys talk about early alert this morning? Yay, early alert. Sorry, I was helping out with advising this morning, so I missed the morning. So they will continue to, or they're rolling out the early alert, and they want that to be housed in their office, because we want there to be a central place where those issues are taken care of, so that if it goes out, they can double check and make sure it has been resolved. And then probation and suspension students, they're going to continue to see those students as well. And in the financial aid appeals. All right, so mandatory training, they're going to do that for you. So please do not panic. If you are sitting there saying, I don't know how to register a student, I don't know what a 2+2 looks like, I don't know how to find a degree plan on our website, I hope that's not you. They will begin those trainings in September, so that when we roll out registration, you will have the tools needed to register, help students, advise students. And then advising assessment, we're working on that, or they're working on that. So that will continue to be retained in their office. Okay, so there will still work with undecided majors. So we know that there are a lot of students who are coded as the Associate of Arts. Well, how do we get them to the correct advisor? So those students who are in very general areas where we don't have, like the Associate of Science going to social work, we're going to start identifying those people so that we can get them to the right advisors. They're going to be very intentional, make sure those students are getting quickly to those areas so they can get to the right people. It affects our funding formula, completion, all that good stuff that we've already talked about. So where do you fit in? This is what you are responsible for as faculty. You will have caseloads assigned to you based on your area. We know that in Gen Ed, you may have some crossover. There are just too many students who are not English majors and many English faculty. So you may, as an English faculty member, have some advisors in there who are interested in areas outside, but still within Gen Ed. And then anything, if you're in a specialized area, of course those students would come to you. So your goal, get to know your students. That's a big part of retention. Know your students, know where they're going, know where they're struggling, know where they're succeeding, be a resource and an advocate, call financial aid for them, get them through those hurdles, get them to TRIO, make sure that they know what resources are available for them. And then making sure they register. This is where a lot of people hesitate with advising because of the technology. Advising is not registering. So your role as a faculty advisor is to know your students, to say, you're in my Comp 1 class, you should take Comp 2 next semester. I don't mean to oversimplify it, but you do not have to get in Genzabar, the scary Genzabar, and make their schedule. You should. It'd be great, because then you can say, check, you've done it. You have a great schedule. You're taking my friend next semester. It's going to be great. There's a question. Yes, sir.
Will there be set aside time at the end of the semester or something where students are supposed to go see their faculty advisor?
Yes. Yes. There will be an orchestrated schedule in the Blackboard shell. We will march together with one voice.
And that was verbatim. I think what we're imagining is that once these students are assigned, that we as individual faculty members will be able to set our schedules based off of our classes and based off of the students that have been assigned to us and their needs. And so then what we would do is say, okay, and I don't know, this could change, but typically what you will see at campuses is that I have my 40 students and I say, okay, my advising times are Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at these times, and then I reach out and make sure that the students who do not contact me to set their appointments up, I reach out to them and say, hey, I noticed you haven't set your advising appointment, so let's get that taken care of. And then you do whatever you can to meet with that student, but our goal is not to wait till the end of the semester. At typical campuses, what you would do is say, like this semester, the end of October is when current student advising would start. And then the new students can get taken care of at the end of the semester and through January. So that's the vision, I think. So.
Yeah. So I was a psychology and an English major, and my faculty all did it in a different way. So my psychology faculty advisor would say, this is where we're meeting, and there was a big group of us. And it was, okay, here's some things you should know. They handed out like a worksheet. And then my English advisor was very one-on-one, touchy-feely, all that good stuff. So the way you do it is really up to you. If you have a very specific program where it is lined out, you can get a group of students together that are all in painting 1 and register them all or assist them with painting 2 because it is following that path. So however you need to do that, keeping track of your students. So when it says this should be easy, we know that there will be growing pains if you have not been going through this. We say it's easy because we're going to be assisting you, advising. You will have a mentor, you will have a financial aid person that you're assigned to, so we're going to give you those resources so that you're not just floating out there not knowing how to answer specific questions. And a staff mentor, is that what you're saying? We're not there yet. So, prepare yourself. Ryan ran the first list of students, and it was so, in the gen ed area, it was so broad that he wants to go in and look some more to make sure where the numbers need to go. We are going to be try to be as equitable as possible so that, one person doesn't have 80 students and then the other has 20, but in some areas that's just going to be very difficult. So in gen ed you may have a few more than you would in automotive. So any questions about this? Again, it's kind of, I'm not handing it to you yet, but it is coming. Okay. Oh, yeah, I know. We're not done with this yet. Oh, I'm not done yet. I have a clicker.
Oh, what's next? Are you unclapping? What's next on the slide?
2 plus 2s.
2 plus 2s, okay. I want to follow up a little bit with, on Bradley's question, and I wanted our CFO just to take a moment and chime in. And I hope you hear this. This is so we are not reactive. I know I keep saying it in different ways, like you teach a class, you say the same thing in like 5 different ways. And so what I'm saying is, if you have your 20 students, and the students are not registered, we know why, when, so that we can project out the number of sections we need. We can project out a cost analysis, and our current students are registered. One hurdle is we do not have a clear understanding of the pay process. And when I said we're going to march forward with one voice, I'm quoting a colleague, but what I mean in that is in your Blackboard shells and the advising shell that you'll have set up, you'll be given, this is the communication financial aid, and you're able to say in one voice to all our students, this is the process. And then you as a faculty member will have your financial aid person that you contact all the time, that you have someone dedicated to you and your area that you constantly can contact, pick up the phone. It also be program specific, so that for specific programs, you'll have a financial aid person that's for that program, because some programs have different loads for students, different semesters, and there could be some financial aid challenges there. So the pronged approach will be that you as a faculty mentor for your students, you will have support for Genzabar, you will have an advising shell to use in Blackboard so you can communicate quickly and seamlessly with your students. You'll be provided messaging that you can tailor to your student group, and also you can even use the Blackboard gradebook to go in there and click and see who's, just keep records for yourself of who's registered, who's not registered. That way, when we come and try to do our planning for spring, our planning for next fall, we're aware of how many of our current students have not registered, or who have, or who are leaving us to go to UA Little Rock, which is also a success for us as an institution and that student. So I think there's a bigger planning piece to this. The relationship part is crucial. But when we go back to the puzzle theme, that relationship is a piece of the puzzle for us to plan as an institution in our processes and move forward together. One hurdle is our students, anecdotally I've heard this multiple times here, but our students wait to register because they want to wait to pay. I don't know about you guys, but when I was in four-year school, we all ran to registration because we wanted to get our seats. Well, you heard this morning, we've stopped that process of I'll wait because they're going to drop everybody and I'll get the class I want. Well, we're not doing that anymore. So that doesn't work. So I think that in itself will push students to the behavior as you help sort of push them as well to that pre-registration moment. If they know if they don't wait till the last day, they can't get their perfect schedule because we didn't clean everybody out who hadn't paid, why wouldn't you plan ahead? I knew as a freshman, sophomore, junior, that I went ahead and met with my advisor because I had a work schedule, I had internships and things I did, and I knew I had to get certain classes, certain times of the day. So I went early to register. So what I wanted our CFO to talk about briefly to you is the payment process. I don't know if you've heard it from students, but I have even heard it in the provost's office, well, I can't pay yet. What does that have to do with registering? Really. I mean, we want you to have your seat. And so I think that we all may have a different determination of how that works here, but it actually just works in one way. So.
Thank you. I planned well for this. So just to give you some insight for a student, once they register for a class, they're going to be billed for that class. But that bill is not due immediately. Now, if they want to pay for it immediately, we will let them pay immediately. We're not going to turn them away if they want to come and pay. There's a lot of things that have to take place for a student once they register. There's aid packaging. Some students may have aid that pays a portion of it or all of it. Some may not have aid packages at all. For instance, for our fall semester, a student could have registered back in April whenever we opened up pre-registration. Their payment is not due for fall until August 10th. okay? And even now, since we're changing the drop, technically they're not going to be dropped from their class if they don't pay by August 10th. Now, they're going to get reminders after reminder after reminder to tell them they're past due once we passed August 10th, but we won't do that first drop until, as I mentioned earlier, August 22nd. So we're still going to continue to work with them even after classes start to try to get payment in place before they would lose their spot in their class. So there is no reason that a student would need to wait to register because of the ability to not be able to pay today. Okay, they would have all the time until August 10th. Now, of course, we're not out there advertising to say, hey, wait, don't pay until, August 22nd. You've got to have till then. We're still out saying your deadline's August 10th. We're just not going to drop them until a later time. We'll continue to work with those that still haven't paid or they're still waiting for their aid to be processed, because it takes some time in that, to give them a little extra time and opportunity to get their payment plan together. Now, I will mention too, payment plans. So if a student registers, they want to go ahead and get their payment plan set up, we have the opportunity for students to make payments where it's not all in one lump sum. It's a $25 setup fee, and they can spread their payments if they sign up for it early enough. Okay, they would have had to sign up for it, and don't quote me on the deadline, I think it was very early August, to spread their payments out over 4 months. So they could have taken their total tuition fees and broken that down into 4 payments. To set up their payment plan, all it is a $25 setup fee. There's no deposit required. If they want to put a deposit down, they can, but it's not required. So if a student has a concern or want to go ahead and take care of getting their payment plan set up, they can do that at time of registration, and all that they have to put down at that moment in time is $25 to set it up. So if that makes them more comfortable in that they're taking care of their account, their classes are held, then that's an option too. So there's various options. There's no reason a student should feel that they need to wait to register until they pay. So, any questions on that? Please tout the payment plan, because we will be making sure students are fully aware, and that will be part of the communication that you'll receive. I mentioned earlier that advising will be sending out talking about get registered, and then don't forget there's payment plan options for you, so you don't have to pay right now when you register.
We still had students this morning who were saying that, and financial aid said, I'm not going to be ready. I'll be ready by the 21st. What do I do? Put $25 down. So, yeah. Okay. So I just wanted to give you a little update on 2+2s because I need your help. I've heard quite a bit when I started looking at the 2+2s that they were broken, didn't make sense, no one was using them. So over the summer, I met with UCA, UALR, and ASU, and Harding to kind of work through some issues we saw where students, if they followed that 2+2 plan, were not going to graduate with us. Were told to take courses that weren't on our degree plans or to take courses at another institution and then transfer them back in, and they weren't courses that we would accept. So I have fixed that with other people's help, so it's not just me. But we know that this is an area where we need to grow. I've pulled some data in looking at where our students are going, what they're majoring in when they transfer. So I have that. But if you, as the experts in your area, know that you have groups of students who are transferring and kind of stuck, that there's not a clear, defined pathway for them, let me know so I can work on those things. I want our students to come on campus who want to transfer and have a pathway so that they're not taking a bunch of stuff. They're taking the right stuff, so that when we have 25 hours of electives, it is the 25 hours of electives that they need to transfer fully into their intended degree. So that's where I need your help. If you have those students, you know where we're lacking, let me know. So I just kind of wanted to explain, when we have these 2+2s, this is what they do. This is what they're intended to do, is to match up directly with our degree plans, to cut out the extra, and to tell a student and an advisor exactly what that student needs on their degree plan to transfer to the other institution. And the electives should match as well. So we've gone through, made sure that all of that 25 hours is intentional. Okay, that's it. It's just clean. We're gonna move forward more with 2+2s. And then if there are areas, let me know.
Good afternoon. I'm excited to share with you all some of the projects that the Institutional Effectiveness Office has been working on over the summer. The first project is the master calendar. And for those of you who may have your smartphones with you or a tablet or whatever, you're welcome to go to this link and look at this information as I'm going over it. So, why did we create a master calendar? Well, we created it for operational effectiveness, transparency, and because, quite frankly, it's been requested for years from both faculty and staff. So we moved forward with that and created this. And so what this represents, when you go to the website, there's actually two places for the calendar. There's this calendar, which has all of the meetings. I still have to add on week 4. Each week represents the week of the month. Then you have the day of the week, and then what meeting is taking place and what time it's taking place. Every shared governance group meeting will take place in Tom Steve's. They're all going to be in that room. They're already scheduled, and that will be how it is from here on out. No meeting overlaps, and there are no shared governance meetings at all on the 4th week of the month. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're free the 4th week of the month from going to any meetings. However, there are no shared governance meetings. I do have one addition that is not on here yet that will be added. The 4th week of the month at 10 a.m. will be the accreditation team meeting. So I'll get that added, and then Lennon will update that website for us. So you will see that the shared governance groups on this calendar represent the new structure that was created this past spring. Many of you were probably involved in that process. The Quality Council at that time worked very, very hard on developing this new structure and really narrowing down. We had so many different councils and committees. And so we really tried to focus those and narrow those down to ones we really, really thought we needed. And so that's what is reflected on here. And those are all new charters. They have all new charters. It's going to have all new membership. So I'm going to go over the new shared governance website here in just a second with you, so you'll know where to go so you can review those charters. You can review the shared governance guidelines that really provide you an outline of what the seating procedures are, what the expectations are for chairs, recorders, committee members, council members, et cetera. And there'll be an evaluation process put into place. All of this is it's best practice and it's continuous quality improvement that we should be doing. In addition to shared governance group meetings, you will see that there are what are called operational meetings. And so the provost direct reports will meet on the first and third Monday of each month at 9 a.m. and the CFO's direct reports will simultaneously meet on those same days. Then we're all going to get together once a month to share And that's going to actually be expanded. That group will be expanded out. It will not be just the CFO and the provost director reports. It'll be inclusive of some other directors, like we'll want the director of financial aid there, et cetera, PDI, because we really want to, as Dr. Stroker keeps saying, stop being reactive. And so this is an opportunity for us to be strategic and plan. So that's what was behind all of this. Okay, so the new shared governance website, if you go to this /governance, what you're going to find is we divided it up into operational and then shared governance. And that way there's a one-stop shop for policies and procedures, the actual organizational structure, and then all of our shared governance information. And so if you go to that website, you will not see this on the landing page, but this is what we chose for the screenshot. The landing page has a bunch of verbiage about why we have shared governance, et cetera, et cetera. But on the side, you will see this is what the navigation bar looks like. And so there's the shared governance structure, and that's what is actually depicted up here. Then there's shared governance FAQs. I researched a lot of different institutions, and this is a common page that they have. It's really helpful for new employees that they're onboarded and they don't know how they can get on a group. And all of that kind of information is listed there. If you have any ideas for additional FAQs, please just send those to me and I will be happy to add them. Then there's the shared governance guidelines, and that document, is Ann in the room? It needs to be edited, so just so you know, okay, great. So just fair warning, it has not been edited, so you will probably see some errors in it, but it's a starting place. And again, it outlines the roles and responsibilities, expectations, some logistical guidelines that every shared governance group must follow, such as you must use the official meeting agenda template, the meeting minutes template. Everybody is required to use LibGuides now for posting their minutes and agendas and documents. It outlines when those have to be disseminated college-wide, by how many days in advance, et cetera. So this is a consistent approach across the board. And there will be training on this. So the first shared governance group, the beauty of the fact that none of these overlap is that in conjunction with partnering with PDI, we're going to come to the first meeting of every shared governance group and do training. And we'll go in depth on the website and how to actually post in the LibGuides. And I'm super excited about it. The LibGuides I think everybody's going to find it much more functional than the portal, the old way. It is HLC documentation, absolutely. This all relates to accreditation in some way or another. So, again, the meeting calendar, that particular meeting calendar does not have the provost and CFO meetings and CEC, et cetera. It is just the shared governance meetings. Then under meeting tools, that is where you can access the committee and council information form. That is the form that's required to be sent in by the chair by a deadline that's set in the guidelines to the Institutional Effectiveness Office. This is it's an operational effectiveness. The reason why we're having you do that is for operational effectiveness. We need to have current membership. We're going to provide that in that document. And it tells me, so I can tell Katie Davis in the library who needs rights to LibGuides to actually post. Now, everybody will have access to review the documents in LibGuides. It's just only the recorder and the chair will get access to actually upload documents to the LibGuide folder. The Senate pages are here now, and you will find their constitution and bylaws there and their membership. We'll get updated pictures of those two groups to post to those sites. And then you will find, under councils and committees, you will find all of the charters. If you go to that link, each one of those has a link to their charter, so you can review that. You can see what the updated purpose of those groups are and what the membership's going to look like, because it does look very different. I will tell you that there are 3 basic membership types. You are you're an at-large member of your constituency, such as faculty or staff, and the procedures for having those seated will be handled through the Committee for Faculty Involvement under Staff Senate and the Committee for Staff Involvement under Staff Senate. Then there are lots of faculty representatives by school. Okay, and those will be, I will work with the deans along with the provost office on getting those seats filled. Then there are also staff seats that are by function, expertise, subject matter experts, et cetera, and those will be filled also by working with whomever the administrator is over that particular unit. So if it's representation for financial aid, we will be working with the Dean of Admissions and Financial Aid, and of course the director. And we tried to make this as equitable as possible. You will most likely see a faculty majority, would you say, Dr. Strucker? Yes, on every group. So there's probably a spot for all of you somewhere. So again, I want to say about all of this, the shared governance website, the guidelines, all of that information. If you have any ideas for improvement, please share those with us. This is a work in progress. It's not going to be perfect from the get-go. So upcoming trainings. There will, again, like I said already, be training on to the councils and committees on the entire process, as well as how to take minutes, anything that we need to cover as far as shared governance, when you have to submit your reports. There's a shared governance timeline. It's very detailed on when what is due from the committee information form too. We even now have a process to where when you go into LibGuide, you'll see that there will be a tab there's 3 tabs, and the first tab is just general information about that group. So that's where their charter will be, and their membership will be. Then the next tab will say whatever the current academic year is. So it will say, for right now, it'll say 2018-19. And that's where all minutes and agendas will be posted for the current academic year. And then the third tab will be an archives tab. And that's where all past academic years information will be. But because this is a brand new structure, you won't see anything archived currently on that page. There is a separate page where Katie Davis has archived all of the past committee and council minutes and agendas, but we didn't want to mix those up because there was a definite structure change. But so what's going to happen is at the end of by June 30th of each year, we will archive the academic year we just completed. It'll move to the archive tab, and then we will create the new tab will be created for like 2019-2020, and that's how we're going to just keep this documentation repository going for accreditation. And just for us in general. So there will also be upcoming training on planning and budgeting and how to use the new Nuventive Improve software. Don't panic. Most of you will not have to deal with that, but I just want to let you know that is training that is coming down the line. If there are any other trainings that you think that you may need, please let PDI know about those. And we will do our best to get those. Sherry and I plan on partnering over the next probably year to do. I'm stuck with her. She says to do a lot of trainings. We're going to try to utilize Fridays as much as possible to do all kinds of trainings. So a couple other things that I don't have slides for. Calm down, Jerry. Some other projects I wanted to let you know that are coming very, very soon. is we're creating a curriculum support page, and that page will most likely fall underneath the provost office page. And I'm going to be working with Lennon Parker on developing an electronic form. We want to move away from paper as much as possible to where, so for new course development, program development, modifications, et cetera, will be done through an electronic form, hopefully routed to the right individual. Curriculum change process should start at the department level. It should start with you. And then the chair and the dean, and then it enters the shared governance. And there will actually be a flow chart outlining all of this, so everybody's real clear on the channels, the approval channels. So that's coming. It will also have information on the catalog update process and the deadlines that are associated with that, because we're going to get a handle on that. We're not going to be reactive with that either. And then there will be an overall, another calendar, for academic deadlines. So, because, as you know, we're now part of the UA system, and so we have more hurdles we have to jump to get things approved, which means we have to be planning even further in advance. So if there's something that has to go to ADHE, and if it has to go to the board, to ADHE, and then if it's a new program, it's going to have to go to HLC and DOE, we have to plan way in advance. I mean, most institutions, they're planning their programs a year in advance. So, but those are all going to be outlined so everybody's real clear. We're going to work back from the dates that are required of our board of trustees and the ADHE academic calendar, so you all know when you need to be planning and submitting things. And last but not least, and then I'll hand it over to Sherry, I just want to extend some thank yous. I want to thank Lennon Parker. There you are. Developing these processes and getting it all in a centralized environment in a functional, clean way that's user-friendly it takes team effort, and I couldn't have done it without Lennon. And his rapid response is unbelievable, and so I want to thank him. I want to thank Katie Davis too from the library. All of her work on LibGuides has been amazing. I think you're gonna, when you get in there and you look at it and it's in columns and it's just really clean. She spent a lot of time archiving, and she's done a tremendous job, and I want to thank her. And last but not least, I want to thank Dr. Strecker for all of her support. It's just so refreshing to have the support from you, and because anybody who knows anything about institutional effectiveness processes knows without the support of leadership, it's not happening. It is just not happening. So thank you so much. Thank you all.
I just want to say that Jasmine has worked incredibly hard on all of this, and she needs a huge round of applause, because all of these difficult hurdles that we have had to jump through the past year with HLC would have been so much easier if this were in place. And so now that this is in place and we follow it, I think we're going to see a tremendous change in just all of the processes that we have around here. So thank you so much. Also, deans and chairs, and this is something that we have not consistently done across campus, if we could start taking minutes at our department and our school meetings. Yes, we need to do that, and we're going to get LibGuides set up for you, and that way, this also is HLC, it helps us document everything that we're doing. If there are curricular changes, then we can go back to those minutes of our departmental meetings where those were actually started, where that originated from. And so, please, I know it is a lot right now, but when we go to those trainings, let's follow these processes, because as Jasmine will clearly tell you, I am not the most linear person on the planet. I am relying on her, and these work. And so she keeps me organized as well as the rest of us. So thank you.
As I promised, I would be a good steward of your time today, but as we go ahead and wrap this up, I also want to recognize we did not do it today. The folks who worked so hard and diligently on the curriculum transition team, there was about 50 folks who overhauled the catalog, tried to make it more accurate, and I just want to thank you very much for that. It was amazing work. Thank you. And as a guardian of the catalog, as the provost, I hope you see that we will not need an overhaul because we will have these processes in place, documented, and I'm very excited for Jasmine and Lennon's work that there'll be a button for that. I mean, I don't know if you heard that, but I did. So you want to change your course? There's a button for that. If you want to you have a new program, there's a button, calendar, and supporting forms for that. And this is such a concerted effort that ends and begins in the classroom. And I just want you to know that all of these things, all of the work this summer, all of the work last year, all of the work for the past 20 years is culminating in us doing the very best we can for our students. And so please, if there's any process you've seen that you have a better idea of how to make this work, I do not mean that facetiously. And those who have worked with me on committees closely, I have no pride in I am going to be wrong, and that's all right because we're educators, so we believe in that everyone can always get better, right? So what I do have pride in is being a part of this institution and being your colleague. And so if truly you see a way to make this smoother and work better, please help us, help yourselves. Help me help you. No, I won't do that. But I want to hear your input. This is a lot. This is a lot of change. This is a lot of new processes, and it is necessary change. As Jasmine said, we won't go out perfect the first time, and that's why we believe as educators in continuous improvement. But this is all meant to support what you do and support our students. So I did want to mention the curriculum transition team. As we're using these forms, there'll be a lot of support and training on our curriculum processes. I know that we have a lot of new things that have come at you right now as school is starting. I hope that you see that all of this fits together, that is for some very good reasons, hopefully soon 6,000 of them, depending on our enrollment, on why we're doing all of this. But I am very grateful to work with you, and I'm speaking at another convocation next week, and one of the things, it's an institution that I've worked at before, and I'm looking forward to visiting with them again. And what I'm going to say to them, I'm also going to say to you. We are forever linked. We are forever linked. This institution will always be on your vita. When you want to go somewhere else, they're going to check your references back here. This institution will forever be a part of me and my family's journey and my curriculum vita wherever I go. The institution I'm going to go speak at, they are forever, that institution's forever on my resume, and I wish them well, and I hope they continue to do well, because we are a reflection of you. In your career, wherever you go, we are there. We're on your vita. So I hope as we work together that you realize that it's because I do. So however I support you impacts my family and my career forever, and how you support your students, we're linked. And I think we often forget that in the moment. But forever, when I hopefully retire with my teacher retirement, and I'm eligible in 10 years, but I can't do it yet, but we'll always be together in that. And I think that goes back to the pieces of the puzzle. Every effort that you put into this is for our students, for your colleagues, and for you and your family. And I just want you to know that when you work with each other, we're together more than we are with our folks at home. Do the hours and the math in your life. We're together quite a bit. And so I want you to know that I see your work and I appreciate it. I appreciate it probably more than you'll ever know. I'll wake up at night going, oh yeah, I got to remember to thank that person for this or for that. But also make sure we appreciate each other, that you reach across the aisle to someone who teaches a different discipline and just, work together and be collegial. And I know that you are, but I want to take a moment and tell you how much I appreciate all your efforts and how proud I am to be forever linked in my resume to you and to this institution. So, as promised, you now have 40 free minutes to do all the wonderful things as we get ready for students. I do want to pause for a second because I realize sometimes it's like drinking out of a fire hydrant to hang out with me. And so if there's any questions that you have based on this, then feel free to ask those questions now. Anyone? Questions? I either wore you down or we did a great job. I'll take either one. So you guys have a wonderful afternoon, and I appreciate you, and let me know if I can help you.